Okay. Today I'm pleased to introduce Rowland Howe, President of Atlas Salt. Thanks for the time to take the interview.
Hey, Ron, thanks. Great to be here.
Since it's the first interview, I thought, well, maybe give a bit about your background and your experience at the Goderich Salt Mine.
So, I've been in the salt business for over 30 years. I'm a mining engineer. When I left coal in the UK, I went to work at a salt mine near Manchester, owned by ICI then. That was, there I did some work around proof of concept for machine mining, which is really, a lot of mines are using machine mine now in salt. And then that mine was actually bought by some American investors who also owned the Goderich mine. And after a while, they asked me if I'd like to go over and run the Goderich mine. Of course, it was the biggest in the world. As a mining engineer, running the biggest mine of any kind was quite appealing. And when I got there, we had a great team, and the market was great, and we managed to expand it. We took it from 3.5 million, and the best year we had was 7.5 million. But there's more capacity there as well. So we grew it. We grew it through just finding efficiencies and through investment. So, we did a lot of good work to make sure that that particular market for highway salt, industrial salt in that Great Lakes region was well fed, well serviced. And then I left there and went on to do some strategic engineering work with the company, including building a new bagging plant in Buffalo. So, that was a whole different concept, but still looking at the salt market in general.
Okay, awesome. When you look at the Great Atlantic Salt Project, are there advantages you see there to say compared to Goderich?
Well, Goderich is the gold standard, and when we look at anything, you can't help but compare it to Goderich. Both have got great geology, both are close to water, which is so important in terms of the logistics. Goderich is a little deeper. Goderich is about 1,800 feet to the top of salt. Whereas the nice thing about Great Atlantic is it's probably 600 feet to the top of salt, which gives us the opportunity to access with declines rather than shafts. Big advantage in terms of accessibility. It's continuous access, it's continuous haulage coming out. You can scale that quite readily. Conveyor can be made to handle more very easily, more power, speed it up, or just put a bigger conveyor in. And then on the other end, the mining side, processing salt isn't hard. It's it's just crushing and screening basically. There's no expensive tailings or flotation ponds or concentrate, nothing like that. And in fact, there's no tailings at all from salt. So, we can easily up the game by adding sections, modules, increasing the capacity of both the conveyor and the port. So it's that opportunity is something that really is worth grasping at. And when I looked at Great Atlantic, when it was first introduced to me, I saw so much of Goderich in there, same sort of DNA. And then, of course, the proximity to the market was quite spectacular as well. So, something that I found quite compelling, and something I felt I wanted to be involved in.
Okay, that's great. Any disadvantages at all, or anything negative you see, or any hurdles?
Nothing that keeps me awake at night. I mean, it's we're exploring with our feasibility study right now, and that's giving us just checking out everything we believe is out there. The drilling is giving us good geotechnical information, so it's giving us information about the rocks that we'll have to mine through with the declines. And of course, we're looking at logistics. We're looking at the market. We're looking at how you'd mine it and all those things. So that's come together quite nicely. It's a very detailed model and needs to be to make sure that we don't miss anything. But nothing really surprising yet.
Yeah, so the drilling is near completed, and how much longer for the feasibility, do you think?
We're thinking it's going to be by the end of the year, so Q4. Drilling, we've got a few more holes to do. We're taking cores, so that's never the easiest type of drilling that we're doing. It's going well.
Okay, great. One more thing, I guess, the Great Atlantic, it sounds like it's gonna be pretty low cost. Do you think, there's opportunity to take market share from other producers in the area, or?
Well, we're going to design a state-of-the-art mine, designed, the first one in 20 years. There's been no new salt mine for 20 years in this region, and designed to use modern equipment. So, it's going to be a smaller mine. A lot of the bigger mines have legacy costs. We won't have those so much. We're going to be well designed, efficient, safe, all the things you want to see in a mining operation. So, it's going to give us cost advantage. The real opportunity, we believe, is to displace imports. The salt mines in the region have done a grand job of sort of upping their game and producing that a little bit more each of them. But still, there's a massive imbalance, and it's about 7 to 10 million tons of salt coming in from offshore, as far away as Egypt, Morocco, Chile. And, you've got, we're on the west coast of Newfoundland. We can get to the markets on the east coast of US in 2 days by boat.
Right.
26,000 tons, 40,000 tons. It's 2 weeks from the other spots, and everybody worries about supply chain these days. Surely, having the source of salt, which is key in highway safety in winter maintenance, it just needs salt, and having a supply of that vital product closer and right on your back doorstep, basically, has got to be an advantage for people, and it's an advantage for us in terms of getting it to market.
Yeah, so I guess in one aspect that's kind of makes the mine carbon neutral if you're offsetting, overseas shipments.
That's a big component. Obviously, we've got less fuel burn to get the tonnage there. Now, when we design this mine, we're looking to utilize as much electrical equipment as we possibly can. And the electrical power on Newfoundland is pretty much hydroelectric. So you've got a good green component there. So we haven't really done the math yet, but everything seems to suggest that we could certainly be very, very low carbon. Could be carbon neutral. Maybe with a little more work, we could be.
Okay, interesting. There was news this week of Canada and Germany signing a hydrogen gas deal. I think it was actually, they're signing that in Newfoundland. I'm not sure if that's happened yet or is just about to, but it certainly sounds like very good timing for the official Brook Salt going.
So yeah, obviously it's great news that Prime Minister Trudeau and Chancellor Olaf Scholz are coming to Stephenville. That's where we are. And Mayor Tom Rose has said some wonderful things. And the reason to be there, and there's a lot of big company money going into this too, is they've got a great wind endowment. That sort of region can create wind power. Newfoundland has just lifted a moratorium on onshore wind power, which opens that door. They've got water. If you've got green power and you've got water, you can make green hydrogen, not blue or gray, which have issues themselves. You can make green hydrogen. You can ship it from Stephenville. But what you need really to make hydrogen effective is storage. And we have a salt dome not far from there. And salt domes are typically, they can be used to store hydrocarbons, gases. A lot of natural gas is stored in them. The US Strategic Oil Reserve is stored in salt domes along the Texas-Louisiana coast. You hear about, Biden's going to release some of the Strategic Oil Reserve. That's where it is. It's underground, and that makes it safe, having it underground. But the salt domes are created by salt being pushed up over eons. And it moves a bit like a lava lamp, if you like, up through the strata above. And the characteristics of that salt are fantastic for they're impervious to fluids and gases. That's why you find oil and gas reservoirs against salt domes. A lot of oil and gas exploration has happened alongside salt domes. So if you can go inside, and what we would do is wash out, literally just using water, we wash out cylinders, massive spaces, which can be then used to store pressurized gas. Obviously, we get a byproduct, we get brine, salt brine coming to surface, and that can be processed, not into the rock salt we're using coming out of Great Atlantic for highway maintenance, but this is more the table salt you see, but also industrial salt, pharmaceutical salt, water softening, even water purification. Salt, goes to make chlorine, which makes, is used to purify water worldwide. And that same chlorine goes into PVC. So there's so many derivatives from salt, and we're going to have a lot of it.
Yeah, so you get some offsetting revenues and as you compare the salt dome.
Potentially. But the real key here is that ability to take hydrogen, store it safely in large quantities.
Okay, and then how does the revenue work for that? Is the company paid them a storage fee or something of that nature?
Unsure, and that's why we're spinning out Fishel's Brook and adjacent properties into Triple Point Resources. And that's going to happen within a month, well on the way to that. We want to then have Triple Point staffed up with people who know how to do this. This is a niche, unique area, which is growing massively. And we want to make sure that we have the right minds, right experience in place to ensure that it gets used to the greatest extent.
Okay, and from the early geological work on that dome, it looks like it could be fairly large in size. What does that kind of compare to in, say, North America that you know?
It's well, the domes in Louisiana that we talked about, it's probably bigger than those, but it's not as big as the salt dome in Utah that's being being utilized right now to store hydrogen. So it's a good size. I don't have a whole lot to say. It's the size of an Empire State Building or anything like that, but it's it's going to create a storage space for a massive amount of gas and hydrogen and pretty much anything else you want to do with it.
Okay, great. That's kind of most of the questions I had. Anything we missed or you might want to touch on or emphasize?
I don't know. I mean, since this may be the first time, introducing it to people, I mean, salt is something that people just almost ignore. And yet it's all around us. It's something that our bodies need for us to survive, but can't make. So, it has to be in diet. But like I said before, it's got all these different derivatives. It goes into industry. They use it to make chlorine that can use to purify water or make plastics. Pharmaceuticals, you go to a hospital and they put you on a saline drip, that's a bag of salty water. But it's got to be the right salt. It's got to be pure, and salt is just everywhere. And probably the most obvious one we see in winter is when a salt spreader goes by, it plows the snow and it spreads salt to prevent ice forming and create a safe way to travel in winter there's more roads being built all the time, more people traveling all the time. And last winter, there was some horrendous storms at the East Coast, which really exaggerated the point. If you're not prepared for winter, then, commerce can grind to a halt in very short order. And it doesn't have to be a big storm. A little salt can cause a lot of problems. A little snow, it can cause a lot of problems, and a little salt can help solve that. So, it's something that's being used widely. There's no obvious alternatives, and it's available. And but you need it. You need it to have it there when you need it. And having somebody able to supply it just offshore has got to be a huge advantage and a peace of mind for people who are planning their winter maintenance.
Right. Now, I did hear salt prices have started to increase some, so I guess the demand.
Sorry, Ron, you cut out a bit there.
Oh, I heard the prices of salt have been on the uprise a bit, so the demand is pretty strong. I take it.
Yeah, and Compass Minerals, who one of the biggest suppliers of salt, my former employer, their Q3 report was indicating that the 75% of the way through the bid season. I mean, a lot of it's public money, right? It's highway maintenance. So these are tendered and bid, and they're about 75% through the tender season, and they're seeing about a 14% increase in the price of delivered salt.
Okay, that's great. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for your time and doing this interview, and I look forward to doing some more in the future.
Thanks, Ron.